You got it. The degree, the job, the house, the person, the number on the scale, the number in the account, the title after your name, whatever it was for you. The thing you organized years of your life around. The thing you told yourself about at red lights and in waiting rooms. Once I have that, then, and for about a day, maybe a week, maybe just one strange evening, it felt like something. Then you woke up one morning and it was just your life. The finish line you'd been running toward for years had quietly become the floor you were standing on. And somewhere in you, a question you were ashamed to say out loud started circling. Is this it? You can't tell anyone. That's the cruelest part. Complain about failure and people comfort you. Complain about success and people look at you like you're showing off. So you smile, you say it's great, I'm so grateful, and privately at 2 a.m., you wonder what's wrong with you. You wanted this. You got this. Why does it feel like standing in an empty room? Some of you watching are there right now. Some of you are 3 months from getting the thing, and this video is arriving early. Either way, you should know. Psychologists sometimes call it the arrival fallacy. Behind it is a well-studied process called hedonic adaptation. The way even positive changes gradually become your new normal. Real research, real terms. But naming a thing isn't the same as understanding it. And it turns out this exact experience, the emptiness at the summit, was mapped in detail about 3,000 years ago. There's an entire chapter about it in one of the oldest books on Earth. And that chapter's location in the book is itself a message. Because out of 64 chapters, the ancients put this one second to last. And what they chose to put after it might be the wisest single decision in the history of books. If you've been in the valley before, you know the book. The I Ching, the Book of Changes. 64 hexagrams. 64 archetypal situations that human life keeps cycling through. We've opened the chapter on dangerous attraction. We've opened the chapter on repeated mistakes. Today we open number 63. It's called GG, after completion. And before a single word of the text, look at the lines because the ancients hid the meaning in the architecture again. Every hexagram is built from 6 lines, strong and weak, and each position in the stack is considered naturally suited to one or the other. In 63 of the 64 hexagrams, at least something is out of place, some line sitting in the wrong seat. Hexagram 63 is the exception. It is the only hexagram in the entire book where every single line stands in its perfect position. Strong where strength belongs. Yielding where yielding belongs. 6 for 6. This is the hexagram of everything worked, the order complete. If the I Ching were a self-help book, this chapter would be the victory lap. The photo at the summit. The confetti. So listen to what the ancients actually wrote over this image of perfection. The judgment, paraphrased, success in small matters. At the beginning, good fortune. At the end, disorder. At the end, disorder. Over the only perfect hexagram in the book, they wrote a warning. Why would 3,000 years of accumulated wisdom look at completed perfection and see trouble? Start with the picture the hexagram paints. Water above fire. A pot of water boiling over a flame. When water and fire cooperate, you get the most useful thing in the ancient world. Cooked food, warmth, civilization in a kettle. But look closer at the arrangement. The water, if it spills, extinguishes the fire. The fire, given time, boils the water away to nothing. The two forces are in perfect balance and perfectly positioned to destroy each other. The image of total success in this book is an image of maximum tension. That's the first insight, and it lands like a bucket of that cold water. Perfect order is not a resting place. It's the most unstable moment in the whole cycle. When everything is finally in position, there is exactly one direction left for movement, and it isn't up. The ancients weren't being pessimistic. They were being observant. A system at peak order has nothing left to organize. Its only remaining option is to begin slowly coming apart. You felt this without words for it. The eerie stillness the week after the wedding. The flatness the month after the promotion. Even a strange, guilty deflation on the last day of a vacation you loved. Your emptiness at the summit isn't a malfunction. It's accurate perception. Some deep part of you is standing in the completed hexagram, sensing that the pot has nothing left to cook and the fire is still burning. And the individual lines of the chapter read like field notes from that exact place. One line describes the moment just after the crossing, breaking the wheels, the little fox getting its tail wet at the very end of the journey. The stumble that happens after the hard part, when attention relaxes. Another remembers a king's greatest conquest and adds dryly that it took 3 years, and warns against putting lesser people in power after the victory. Another line, my favorite in one famous translation, simply says, "The finest clothes turn to rags." Be careful all day long. Silk becomes tatters. Not through catastrophe, through ordinary days one after another, doing what days do. The whole chapter is one sustained message. You have arrived, and arrival is not what you thought it was. But buried in the middle of these warnings, the ancients placed one line that quietly explains your emptiness better than any psychology paper I've read. It's an image of two neighbors making an offering. The neighbor in the east is wealthy. He slaughters an ox, the most extravagant sacrifice available, the ancient equivalent of the champagne and fireworks celebration. The neighbor in the west has almost nothing. He makes a small, simple offering at the right moment. And the text says flatly that the small, sincere offering receives the blessing, and the magnificent ox does not. Sit with that inside our question. What is the giant achievement? The degree, the title, the house, if not an ox? The enormous thing you spent years fattening, believing that its size would finally purchase the feeling you were after. And the I Ching's verdict is that size was never the currency. The blessing, the felt sense of meaning, never responds to magnitude. It responds to timing and sincerity. The small, true thing offered now. This is why the summit is empty. You brought the biggest ox of your life, and the feeling you expected to buy with it never showed up to collect. Not because you did something wrong, because meaning was never for sale in that market. It was being handed out all along, down in the small, sincere moments of the climb itself. The early mornings, the problem that finally cracked, the person who helped you when they didn't have to. You were paid daily, the whole way up. The summit was never going to contain the wages. You'd already received them. Which brings us to the wisest editorial decision in the history of books. The I Ching is a book about completion, about change resolving into order. So you would expect it to end with this hexagram, number 63. Everything in its place, the crossing completed, the story done. Roll credits. It doesn't. There is one more chapter, and hexagram 64, the final word of the entire book, is called Before Completion. The mirror image, every single line out of place, the river not yet crossed, the little fox out on the ice again, almost across, tail one mistake from the water. The ancients ended their book about change not with arrival, but with a new departure. Deliberately, permanently unfinished. Think about what they were saying with that structure. Completion is not the destination. Completion is the second to last thing, and what follows every completion is the next beginning forever. The book has no final page because life has none. 64 loops back into 1. Your emptiness at the summit is the feeling of standing in chapter 63 while being a creature built for chapter 64. Humans are crossing animals. We are made of purpose and motion. Give us a finished world with nothing left to cross, and something in us starts to starve. Not because we're ungrateful, but because we were never designed to live on the far bank. We were designed for the river. So the emptiness isn't telling you the achievement was worthless. It's telling you the achievement is complete, and that you are not. It's the sound of chapter 64 knocking. The mistake is answering that knock in panic, grabbing the next ox, a bigger goal chosen mostly to escape the silence, the same summit-chasing loop at a higher altitude. The ancients would counsel something quieter. Stay a moment in the completed place. Guard it lightly. Be careful all day long. Honor it with a small, sincere offering rather than a bigger plan. And then when the next crossing appears, and it will, choose it for the river, not the bank. Choose it because the crossing itself, the daily, small, sincere work of it, is where the wages were always paid. The only perfect hexagram in the book, and over it, a warning. Silk turning to rags through ordinary days. A poor neighbor's small offering, outvaluing an ox. And a 3,000-year-old book that refused to end on completion, because nothing does. Next time, we go somewhere almost opposite. The chapter the ancients wrote about the mind that won't stop. Why you can't stop overthinking. And the one hexagram in the book that is entirely about stillness. It has a strange answer about where in your body restlessness lives, and I promise you've never heard it. But before you go, I want to know. What did you finally get? The thing you organized years around. And be honest with the second part. How long did the feeling last? A month? A week? One evening? Put it in the comments, and read the others. There's something quietly healing about watching 100 strangers confess that their summit was empty too. You'll notice that many of them still don't regret the climb. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll know when the next video is available.